And we're live, everybody, with our very illustrious guest, Stephen P. Jarchow. And he's an Academy Award winning, Emmy nominated producer and author of a phenomenal new book, co author with Paul Zane Pilzer, The New Roaring Twenties Prosper and Volatile Times. This is an extraordinary book talking about AI, artificial intelligence, in these days. And it's really extraordinary to learn about it. You're hearing about it a lot, especially in the fields of entertainment and science and health and wellness and technology and law enforcement and so many aspects of our lives. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. If you've always heard the expression AI and you're not sure what that's really about, or even just artificial intelligence, well, Stephen is quite the expert. And again, he and Paul penned this extraordinary new book that's available, of course, at Amazon and all the places where you get your books. And we're going to talk about the book. We're also going to talk about his career is quite extensive. As I mentioned, his films have won Academy Awards. He's Emmy nominated, and he has been involved in the production and distribution himself of over 250 films and television series, resulting in 2 Academy Awards and 5 Emmy nominations. And he, along with his colleague, Paul Zane Pilzer, who's author of 13 New York Times bestselling books in 25 languages, they have come together and they have put together this extraordinary book, which is tackling the conversation about, working with AI technology in the ever-changing world that we're in and how it's actually affecting our world in many different ways. We have family that actually is involved in the world of AI and really for positive uses in healthcare and law enforcement, the development of AI technology and platforms for those very important purposes. You've seen references to AI technology in the media almost every day. And most recently, with regard to the announcement of actor Bruce Willis allowing his AI likeness to be used by Deepfake in a commercial venture and in potential films as well. And most recently, the ruling in Denver, Colorado, that couples can use artificial intelligence, a bot, as their officiant, while other countries have banned that idea. Paul and Stephen came together to really shine the light on one of the hottest topics today in the news and affecting the world today, which is AI technology. And again, in this phenomenal book, which we're going to be talking about, which again is available at Amazon, and we'll mention that again a couple of times during the show. It's an exciting and futuristic time, but the authors, Paul and Stephen, do contend that our civilization faces a real danger from zero-day cyber attacks and manipulation with algorithms. What should the public know? Robots armed with AI are here to work with us and help us achieve our goals. However, of course, we don't wish to end up working for them. Some states are accepting AI bots to officiate over weddings, as I mentioned. However, some states and religions are against that. Social media is a crude form of AI. However, can we readily see the corrosive impact it's had on our communication, our politics, and our sanity? Technology with AI is changing human existence for the better. However, just as nuclear weapons and pandemics and cyber attacks pose extreme risks, AI has the potential to be deadly. Technology with AI is creating extraordinary business opportunities and wealth. However, it's also affecting who works in which job, and so much more. The Roaring New Twenties, is the essential guide to surviving and prospering in the new Roaring Twenties, which is this time right now. Technology with AI is a major issue in the confrontational U.S. relationship between China and Russia, and with China and Russia and us. And this book explains why this has happened and presents an unexpected perspective based on extensive experience in both countries. It's really fascinating. I just want to tell you a little bit more about our very special guest, Stephen. He's extraordinary because not only is he in the entertainment and film industry as well, and I mentioned Academy Award winning as well as Emmy nominated on multiple occasions. He received his BBA and MS and JD from the University of Wisconsin. He's been involved in the production and distribution of over 250 motion pictures, television series, as I mentioned. And also, in addition to that, He's been a principal in more than 100 real estate ventures. He's an expert in real estate, and he's the author of 5 books, award-winning noted books on real estate finance. So he comes with an illustrious background, and we're very honored to have him here on the show to talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and lots more. We invite you, if you have questions or comments, or you'd like to participate and you want to comment and say hello in our Lovely Hall chat room, which is the chat room that's open and available when the shows are on live, you can certainly do that right here and right now. When you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV, subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so you never miss any of our episodes of our epic ongoing series, the Jim Masters Show live series, and you can comment, say hello to one another, and interact with us here at JMS. Now, without further ado, we're going to welcome Stephen to the show, our very illustrious guest, coming to us from Dallas, Texas. Stephen, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for the invite. I look forward to our conversation.
I do as well, and I can guarantee that right now you and I are not AI bots. We are real people talking for real. Then again, maybe not. That was perfect timing. Did you do that on purpose?
Well, I was going to say, you can speak for yourself, of course.
Right, exactly.
What I am is up for conjecture.
It's up for conjecture. That's amazing. A bot that actually drinks fluid. Welcome to the show. As I mentioned, you've got this extraordinary real estate background. You have this incredible background in entertainment and film and television, won awards, and have created some really epic pieces of work. What was it about AI, about artificial intelligence, that sort of piqued your interest and Paul's interest? And we wish Paul could be with us. He's a little under the weather right now, but hopefully down the line he'll join us. He's the co-author of this incredible book. What was it about this particular category that piqued your interest? Obviously, we see it filtering into what you do in entertainment and film and television. We see it coming into these art forms. What is it about it that sort of spurred your interest enough to want to be involved with the book?
Well, we have been using AI in our business for years. And the truth of the matter is AI is already here and is an invasive and appropriate part of our daily routines, our cars. Yeah, I'm cutting you off every so often just to...
Is that a pregnant pause?
Yeah,
or to catch your breath?
No, I'm just showing you who's in charge here.
He's in charge. That's right.
It's the bot.
It's the bot that's doing it.
Well, we were interested because artificial intelligence is going to be pervasive in everything. We cannot avoid it. It's already here. And I looked at that and started to do a lot of reading and research as we integrated more AI into our streaming and e-commerce businesses. And all the major and minor tech companies are including AI as part of their offering. And in an effort, there's an arms race going on, literally and figuratively, to advance AI and use it among companies.
That's right. Just the little boop, you just disappear. He's actually not in Dallas, folks. He's actually on Mars. So the fact that we even have the signal as strong as we do is quite, he'll drink to that. He's coming to us from Mars. It really is fascinating because there's positive uses. Like I said, we have family that's involved in the world of AI and working on platforms that specifically are positive and help with the advancements in the healthcare industry and also in law enforcement. But obviously there is the fear too in many other areas of nefarious uses of AI, or a lot of people fearing that their livelihoods will go away because of the fact that things are artificially created. One of the things that we see now is the current actors strike, where that's one of the things that they're talking about is their images and their voices and their branding being used in an artificial way. Tell us about some of the concerns from what you have observed.
Well, all of those concerns are real. First of all, there's going to be massive structural unemployment, where perhaps only a third of the people that currently work will have jobs. And that's one. As AI bolsters company fortunes, there's something to be said for an excess profits tax to fund universal basic income as people try to make this transition. So the change in the type of work and the nature of work, we can't even fully anticipate what that's going to be like, but we know it's going to be very, very meaningful. It's going to affect 2/3 of the population in a potentially negative way, or a way that requires them to make a transition to something else. The concern about other regimes using AI and weaponizing it in such a way as to be a real danger, frankly, to themselves as well as other countries, including us, is very real. I can't see China or Russia slowing down very much unless we are able to form an accord with China to work together on these issues, which I think may be our top priority from a geopolitical standpoint. Russia is going to be a real problem. Putin has said that whoever masters AI controls the world, and they're devoting a lot of resources. Historically, they've attempted through hacking and zero-day vulnerabilities within various systems, infrastructure systems. Russia has been able to invade our critical infrastructure and to cause mischief both politically and practically. In the future, there sort of is going to be, with respect to these hacks, a standoff where Russia is going to slow down, I believe, these efforts, because they know that anything they can do in this regard, we can do better. We're ahead of them with respect to hacking and artificial intelligence and understanding the future of these systems. But then we go to the military, where there's a real fear of autonomous weapons systems where decisions to kill are based on machine language and the machine making a decision without. Our Department of Defense has said that there's always going to be a human pulling the trigger or causing havoc and death. And absent that, there's not going to be anything of that nature. However, in order for us militarily to defend our republic and to be competitive with other nations and even ahead of them, I think there's a very good chance, despite what the Department of Defense says, that we will have autonomous weapon systems that we will use where decisions are made by someone other than a human. So there's a variety of concerns that have been raised, some of them philosophical, some of them technological. In addition to these big issues that confront all of us and influence our lives, there are literally tens of thousands of other issues arising with respect to AI, many of them positive, but also a lot of things that could potentially be harmful to us. An example may be a group of researchers who wanted to put together a combination of molecules which would be helpful with respect to certain diseases. And then, as sort of a lark, they decided to, using AI, chatbot to formulate a combination of molecules that would be harmful or toxic to humans.
Mm.
And the next day, in fact, it was probably earlier than that, but the next day is when they read it. The combinations numbered over 40,000.
Wow.
And, that's the kind of thing you really don't want in games that, are going to engage in biological warfare. So on those negative notes,
Yeah.
there are some things to be concerned about.
Concerned with.
About.
Yeah. Do you think your connection is loose? Is that why it keeps popping in and out? Something is a little ajar there. Sometimes it cuts off some of your words when you disappear and then you come back a little bit. There you go. Right. Just like that, it goes in and out. Your signal is the color and the vibrancy of the image is terrific. The audio is great, but it's a little bit of a did you freeze there? Here we are talking technology, right? And we're live. Welcome back. You think it was just a little loose, something loose, maybe?
I think so. This should be better.
Did you feed it? They have to be fed. Technology likes being fed.
I'm not sure what I would feed them.
Yeah, just kick it. They like a good drop kick every once in a while too.
Well, it likes to be treated like a human.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Likes to be pampered. I mentioned too, that was in the news recently, and I heard about this, that there are some states that are accepting artificial intelligence bots to officiate over weddings, where other states and religions say no way. Tell us about how even that is coming into our everyday way of life.
Well, it poses some very interesting theological questions as to what it means to be human and where religion really comes from. Religion is really based, as well as democracy, is really based on stories we tell one another. It's based on language. A lot of other things are as well. Money is based on the story that this is worth something, because right now money is mainly digital pulses and not much else. You don't carry that much cash around. And other forms of money are problematic as well. So there's a real problem, and in terms of the arms race that's going on, and the fact that it's evolving these various products. And do we really want our stories of religion, of theology, or even of democracy to come from a non-human source? And these technologies, these AI, particularly generative AI, the more advanced large language models, they're based on telling stories. They accumulate all of this data and put it together, process it, look to other machines, look to their own experience in order to create a story. Mm-hmm. And do we want our stories about the nature of marriage, the nature of humanity, the nature of religion, the nature of the universe, to be taught to us by machines? Now, some would take the position, well, that's okay, because ultimately this data comes from humans. It's just being processed through a machine.
Yeah, you hear that a lot, right?
The problem with that is the technologists who are working on this form of technology really do not understand how large language models work and how effectively how artificial intelligence can learn and expand its knowledge base. They just don't have a good idea, even though they're the ones building this thing and letting the genie out of the bottle. I'm not objecting to that. I'm simply saying anytime the people who create something really don't understand it, it's troubling.
Social media, I mentioned in the introduction too, social media, and whatever you did to the computer, it seems to be working. You are a
Good.
magic maker.
I'm
It,
functioning.
yes, right. And award winning. Social media as well, which now has consumed the lives of billions of people, is sort of like a crude form of AI in so many different ways. And we've seen positive with it, and we've seen people come together. We've also seen a lot of negative. We've seen, divisiveness, and people unfriend each other, and people fight and get divorces, and we've seen a lot of horrific things on it as well, as much as we have seen some positive things. And we've seen a lot of nonsensical, superficial stuff that suddenly has become very overly important when really it isn't. And it's, being kind and empathetic and doing the right thing and working hard and sharing love. Those things are basic ingredients that are still needed and important for humanity. But we see a lot of superficial stuff on social media as well. From your perspective, how do you feel about social media and its role and influence as a crude form of AI that the world seems to be glued to?
Well, I come down on the side of it being more corrosive than helpful. I do recognize that it can bring people together. I mean, there's a lot to be said for, geo map systems and for the ability to communicate with family and friends on Facebook, etc. Uh, but I look at the truly corrosive effect of all this and the fact that it is addictive to young people and older people. And it is causing a lot of disinformation and a lot of very negative information being spewed out there. And I think this is having a terrible effect on our young people. It's influencing their whole view of the world. It's causing them, I think, to be more lonely rather than feeling like they're part of a community. One of the things one can do to combat this in your own life is simply be more human and make sure you talk to, perhaps using technology as we are today, talk to other humans and talk to them to share your ideas and then listen to their ideas, not with the thought that you're going to change their point of view. And I encourage people to talk to people who disagree with them
Mm-hmm.
or have very strong views and listen to what they have to say. Don't sit there thinking about the next thing you're going to say, but actually listen to the other human. And I think it's very important that we get out of our headspace and spend time conversing, dealing with, loving other humans, being of service to others. I mean, you're the real winner
Yeah.
if you take care of a sick friend or you handle a problem for someone who's not able to handle it. That doesn't mean you don't need to protect yourself,
Right.
but I think being of service, you're the winner. You're the one that
You are.
really gets the benefit from doing that, and you should expect nothing in return. Just expect that you're doing the right thing, you're doing the human thing. So becoming more human is one way of us to, in a soft way, combat the potential dehumanizing effect of these machines.
Very well put. Very interesting too, as people are grappling with all of this. It's technology is also changing human existence for the better. Would you say that? Just as however, just as the nuclear weapons, pandemic, cyber attacks pose extreme risks, um, it does have the potential to be deadly as well.
You've asked me a two-part question, which is fair. The first is, will it do some good? And the second is it dangerous? And we've touched on that a bit, but we can drill down a little deeper. With respect to the good, I think that the majority of the wealth over the next 10 years during the new roaring 20s is going to be based on artificial intelligence. And companies taking AI and applying it to their particular business. We already see that in manufacturing robots and nanobots, which are used for medical procedures. And this is accelerating. And the related point is the speed of change. Things that one would have thought are going to take 10 years are now taking months. And it's accelerating, which is a little unnerving. But there are so many positive things that are going to happen in terms of speeding up work, eliminating work that is really not necessary. But it is going to be devastating for a lot of people. And I think we need to plan for that, which may mean some form of universal basic income, replacing a lot of the hodgepodge of welfare and medical programs that we have currently. So part of the negative is going to be the restructuring of the whole economy. Now, this sort of thing does happen on a regular basis. It's basically structural unemployment caused by the advance of technology, which has been really pervasive in the Western world in particular during the last couple of hundred years, during the Industrial Revolution and et cetera. But what's different now, again, is the pace of all this. This sort of transition used to take generations. Now, it's the sort of thing that can happen very, very quickly. And, that's unsettling to people. And then, the other danger is the existential danger. Are we creating something that is going to turn on us so that we'll effectively be working for machines rather than them working for us? Is this going to be a situation where autonomous weapons can wipe out, parts of humanity or all of humanity? How is this going to play out? And much like Oppenheimer, when he was building with his staff the atomic bomb, he recognized there was more than a zero chance that the bomb would catch fire to the atmosphere and burn up the whole Earth. And he viewed that as more than zero, that is how it could be played out based on the calculations he had done, assisted and guided by Albert Einstein. Now, there is a more than zero chance that AI is the end of humanity, and that we will now transition into a new future that's unlike anything we've ever had. Now, there are people that think very positively about that. I think Elon Musk may be one. There are others who are more technically oriented than he is even. And their view is that, and you see this a little bit in the theocracy of Silicon Valley, their view is, this is going to be the next stage for humanity, and we're going to be able to live forever because we're going to be able to upload a digital presence that will continue after our bodies decline. And this is something that's been around, this idea, for a long time, probably since the science fiction films of the 1950s. But it really has become part of the Silicon Valley ethos with respect to several influential groups. And the idea is that, don't fear this. This is just simply the next stage, and it'll be very good for all of us. It certainly, every generation has felt it's in the end times. Certainly, there's a lot of people that feel that now, particularly with artificial intelligence and the increase of autonomous weapon systems. So we shall see. Should be a very interesting 10 years.
Yes. some people think it's coming to the end, just how people are treating each other these days too. Road rage and pushing and shoving in the stores, and just the foulness that has existed, ramped up in recent years. Some of that is also definitely got to be dealt with. You mentioned that there will be a reduction, obviously, in people's jobs. Are there specific industries and genres of work that you see that are probably or definitely going to be affected first with as AI continues to develop, expand, and roll out even more in our lives?
Well, there have been a number of studies written and attempts to predict, which jobs will be most affected. Um, those most likely least affected are those who work with their hands,
Mm-hmm.
who do gardening, carpentry, things like that. There'll be AI applications with respect to agriculture that may eliminate some jobs, but for the most part, people that work with their backs and their hands may well be less affected and perhaps be the least affected. With respect to those who are middle managers or customer service people or performing a service function, there's a real risk that those jobs will begin to disappear. Right now, we use we as a world use robots extensively in all kinds of manufacturing and storage functions. Where we don't use them quite as much is in service functions, although you do run into an automated phone system when you're trying to buy something or get a prescription filled,
Mm-hmm.
which can be maddening to say the
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
They're not done very well yet, but gradually AI will expand and will take over many of the service functions, and that's going to eliminate a lot of, I think, white collar jobs. Unfortunately, the jobs that will prevail, it's going to certainly change the way that writers write, lawyers draft contracts, accountants prepare financial statements, because it's going to create a world in which you don't necessarily write something from scratch, but you work with artificial intelligence, and you need to be very skilled at the prompts and the direction of the artificial intelligence and what you communicate to them so that you end up with something you can actually use. As a lawyer, I've used AI for legal documents, and I find it's very unsatisfactory. I almost have to go back to documents that have been used for a long time and that I've developed myself or someone I know has. And I've not found it to be a useful assist for me. Now, I think that's not true of all lawyers. I think some lawyers are finding it very useful in terms of repetitive tasks like interrogatories in litigation and things like that. It's going to change law. It's going to change how writing takes place. I mean, there's a real concern among the Writers Guild activists that AI is going to replace writers, both of television and of film. And there's a really legitimate fear in that regard. At the very least, it will change things so that a writer will often, in addition to doing original work, provide original prompts and help guide AI to create a first draft of a document that then needs to be pretty completely rewritten in order to be satisfactory for production. I think that's going to happen. We're already seeing, because of streaming, the fact that actors and writers are concerned about their revenue stream and whether they should have residuals on streaming. We're also seeing their concern about artificial intelligence. They are right to be concerned, but I think that's a point that can be, if cooler heads prevail, intelligently settled and come up with some guardrails and some rules for dealing with artificial intelligence. The tougher issue, I suspect, is money, is the residuals issue.
Yes, exactly. As they're talking about now with the actors and actresses as well, who are also on the lines trying to figure all of this out. And even voice, too, which has been used for years, the automated voices, but even more so with voiceover work and things of that nature, which for some is their complete livelihood, and everything is all automated, and they just can press the buttons to just tweak what they wanted to say. And it will have, market effects on society in different ways. You mentioned a little bit about also restructuring the business of energy and the current balance of power, and how unchecked that power often resides with autocrats and oligarchs, criminals, and others. That people hearing that probably are a little nervous about now, huh?
Well, um, you know, the, the oligarchs and criminals and others who control a lot of our fossil fuels are very resilient, very wealthy, and able to attack their adversaries very aggressively, in some cases using AI. But the the real problem is going to be that in order to get to the point that we reduce our dependency on fossil fuels, we need to develop these alternative technologies that will permit us to move to wind, geothermal, and other sources of energy. They're being developed very rapidly. Technology with AI is going to accelerate that, which is good because based on the summer here in Dallas, I would say we need to step it up a little bit in order to manage this issue and make places that are currently heat challenged livable. When you have, weeks of 100-degree plus temperature, that is a little wearing, despite all the other terrific aspects of cities like Dallas and Los Angeles. Uh, so, we're hopeful.
Which is key. You're hopeful, and there are, ways that it can be used again in a very positive way in the worlds of healthcare and in law enforcement, things of that nature as well. It's also causing the reevaluation of the nature of work. You mentioned our inefficient social welfare and healthcare systems, as well as prompting new and surprising views of the national debt and inflation, too. Tell us about all of that.
Well, on balance, we conclude that the response to the pandemic was, for the most part, spot on. There was a huge need for a subsidy and a transition for citizens who could not work, were ill, or had other financial or physical issues. And the government stepped in and kind of made universal basic income, or at least loans, available to many Americans, and this contributed to saving the economy during the lockdowns. The U.S. government also, tried to be fairly aggressive with respect to reopening once they thought the time was right, and they weren't as emphatic as China, who one day everything was shut down and then everything changed the next day. But we reopened, relatively quickly when it was clear that the disease was still out there and COVID was still a problem. But I think that was also the right thing to do. As a result of these subsidies, the national debt and the deficit in the budget increased dramatically. And on balance, I think this is a reasonable thing to do. How is the debt funded, the national debt? It's funded by the purchase of notes and bonds, largely by foreigners, often by Americans. The largest holder of US debt securities is China. And I don't think that's all bad. That gives them a stake in our success. And If in the event we needed to pay off the national debt, with a slight increase in taxes, we could pay the whole thing off, particularly if we taxed, the upper 10% or even the upper 1%, who increasingly are possessing more of the wealth in this country, unfortunately. I mean, that is one of the reasons you're, I think, seeing so much disreputable behavior and people yelling at each other and getting agitated. I think a lot of the problems are financial, and you combine that with being bombarded by social media, and a lot of people you run into are in a state of high anxiety and are triggered and ready to go for no reason at all. And again, we need to try to be more human and more polite and more cordial to one another. But that's a message that's lost on some people, I'm afraid, for any of a number of reasons.
One of the big fears you just hear it, everyday people talking about is that they will be thinking for us and even coming to the point of feeling for us, where, and that's on an extreme level, but where you don't even need people anymore because the machines will take over the world. I know there are people who have that underlying concern, and some talk about those things. Is something like that even a reality, or that we don't know until we just continue to see how things evolve? I know people are afraid of that. They see science fiction movies and different things and what have you that bring that kind of thing up. But in reality, when you look at the facts, how real is that?
Well, first of all, we have no evidence that machines are sentient at this point, which means they can feel and have emotions and be very much like humans. However, there are a number of people who are establishing intimate personal relationships with AI, and they're finding that relationship is more satisfactory to them than a human relationship. And this kind of moves in the opposite direction of what I would advocate, but I understand it. It's hard dealing with humans, and it requires patience and thought, which some people aren't willing to put the work in. I think there is, again, more than a zero chance that these machines will become sentient. Excuse me, got to turn my phone off.
Another machine just getting in the way of human conversation and connection, right? Proof Absolutely. Is in the pudding. You timed that perfectly.
Well, I need to plan ahead a little bit better and put my phone on airplane mode.
Yes.
I'm talking to you.
Well, just put it in a box for a weekend and let it rest. It's running our lives, the phone.
I agree. Very helpful in some ways, but again, largely because of social media and the problems it creates, the phone is an issue. I mean, you go out for dinner with some friends and you see people not talking to each other, just spending most of the dinner just staring at their phones.
At their phones, yeah.
Very strange.
Taking pictures of what they're eating and then uploading it.
That's another good one.
What's really amazing is the mind of the prolific television writer and producer Rod Serling, and that episode that he had where I forget the name of the actor, very well-known actor, who played the scientist, and they started the opening sequence of that episode where there was this scientist who is pulling his hair out. He's frustrated, he's crying, he's yelling, he's screaming, and he's in front of this massive wall-length computer named Agnes. And the people come in, they're like, "What's happening, Harry?" or what have you. "I can't take it anymore. It's too..." And you see him come out, and then the main character, the actor, comes in. I think it was Wally Cox, maybe. I think he was the actor. And he's all excited. "Oh, I'm going to teach this machine wonderful things, and I'm going to show it what to do, and I'm going to master it, and we're going to solve all these problems. We're going to fix everything in the company, and it's going to be great." And it's really amazing because, this was like the early 60s when this episode was written of the Twilight Zone. But eventually, the machine starts realizing that he, the main character, who's the scientist, is trying to get the notice of one of the secretaries in the office. He's attracted to her. And the machine starts to develop an animosity, and he would ask the machine questions like, what suggestions do you have? What should I say to, Madeline or whoever the secretary was? What should I say? And the machine would start spitting out papers of information. Tell her this. And everything that the machine was advising him was the opposite of what you do. It was things that were offending her and irritating her and upsetting her to the point where she wanted nothing to do with him. And it was the machine getting jealous of him. And it got to the point, I don't want to give it all away in case somebody didn't see the episode, but where he also, like the guy before him and probably the guy after him, just gets so controlled by the machine. The machine says it loves him. I love you. You can't love anybody else. It's spitting out all this information. And then all of a sudden, the machine starts going haywire and not working. And of course, the management comes in and says, what's going on here? What's happening? We thought you were the one who was going to solve the problems and fix everything. And then he gets escorted out screaming and having an attack. And then they bring in another guy and then they end the episode. But how unbelievable that so many years earlier, Rod Serling was able to capture the essence of machines sort of running the show or sort of dictating how we feel and how we act and react. I don't know if you ever saw that episode, but it is quite brilliant.
It really is. Rod Serling was extraordinary. If you want to understand a little bit about the problems faced in the new Roaring Twenties, watching a bunch of the Twilight Zone episodes is not a bad way to start. And science fiction in general creates all sorts of questions and issues and comes up with some solutions, many of them impractical, but or even mystical, but solutions. And so, being exposed to these kinds of thought-provoking episodes, stories, or movies, not a bad way to begin to educate yourself. Of course, most movies feature robots that look a lot like us and are substituted for humans. And in truth, the robots we've seen make such a difference, don't look like humans at all. They have, when they need arms, they have lots of arms. When they need to move around, they have wheels or other mechanisms. And they look very different than we humans so far.
Yes. It was that other episode where the kids, the mother had passed away, and the kids, or the grandmother was ill or something, and they got to pick the grandmother that they wanted, and it turned out to be a robotic grandmother, but she looked like a loving grandmother that baked apple pie and took them to the park and was everything a grandmother should be, or you would hope. And then something happens where it gets revealed that she's a robot, but. Yeah, just fascinating that he's so ahead of time, Rod Serling, on so many different levels, like a lot of the folks who are in the industry like that. For those who are in the industry of AI, who are working at it for the right reasons, they want to make a difference, they want to help, they want to make life easier, they want to find cures, and they want to revolutionize things in a way that's positive for humanity. What would you say for them and to them?
Well, that's very admirable and very appropriate. However, many of these people work for companies, and the business environment's very competitive. So good intentions and good ideas can often be rolled over by the need to advance the efficacy of AI. So uh, it's very hard for people, particularly ones that work for large technology companies, which are the main developers and proponents of AI at the moment. Very hard for them to have a clear ethical standard when they have lots of competitive pressures.
How about those who are sort of entrepreneurs and they're creating and devising and building their own thing, and they don't want to be attached to the corporate world or to necessarily be employed by, work with, but not be employed by or dictated to by. Instead, they're working with, various organizations, investors, people who are believing in what the mission is that they have. How about the entrepreneurial side? Because there seems to be a lot of that spirit in the world of AI right now.
That's true. There are, again, tens of thousands of people who are trying to do good work in this area and trying to understand it. If you want to control your ability to do this, you need massive computing power in order to create and functionize AI. And most small entrepreneurs do not have access to that, so they have to work off somebody else's platform, which is fine, except that that's yet another interruption in the efforts they're making, and they may be using a platform that doesn't necessarily correspond to their financial or ethical initiatives. So, it's very difficult for smaller companies. However, if businesses look at themselves and if humans look at themselves, we are already fully integrated with AI. It's just a question of whether it's going to become generative AI, where it begins to act more and more like a human thinker and develop the ability to make human type judgments and decisions with or without emotion.
Exactly right. The book itself, what was the writing process like when you guys came together, you and Paul, and decided we want to put this in book form? We want to, sort of get the word out. What was that process like working together with Paul?
Well, Paul and I have been friends for 40 years. We met a long, long time ago. And he's one of the quickest, most brilliant people I've ever met. He's an economist, and he thinks of things through an economist's lens. He had been working on this book for a couple of years, which was a bit prescient, given the fact that AI really hadn't become part of the public consciousness yet. And well into the process, he became very seriously ill. And he and his wife called me and asked me if I would consider finishing the book. And Paul's been my friend, and he had some really interesting ideas to communicate. So I worked on it for about 4 or 5 months, and the book, has now been published and is coming out. It's available wherever you buy books, small bookstores, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and it's resonating with people who are interested in sort of a layman's description of what is going on over the next 10 years and what can I do to be functional during this time. And Paul originally wrote it because he wanted to address questions from his children. He has 4 children. And they asked him, what are things going to be like, in 1930, or 2030 rather. We know what things were like in 1930. He wrote the book in response to that, and then, as I mentioned, became ill and needed my help finishing it.
Please send our best to him, and of course, and to his family. What is it that you both hope people get out of the book? Is there a certain reader that you had in mind, or is it something that anybody, really any age, can benefit from? and learn from?
Well, I think the book is accessible to pretty much anyone who is interested in these kinds of economic and social issues, particularly someone who's interested in technology and artificial intelligence and robots and what's going to happen over the next 10 years in that regard. But it also deals with our point of view based on our experiences in Russia and China. We both have done a fair amount of business in those places, sometimes together. And our point of view is that Russia is basically run by criminals, and their mendacity is not going to change. And we need to make sure we can defend ourselves against actions they will take. And it's again, it's more than a zero possibility that at some point they'll use tactical nuclear weapons, and that'll be a first. I mean, that really hasn't been done in a meaningful war yet. Um, and with respect to China, we are more optimistic, or at least hopeful, that the U.S. and China can establish, a working relationship, that they can be competitive, but they benefit from each other, so much economically and socially. And there are so many reasons for us both to get on the same page. And we're not there yet. The relationship's in a bad place, but I think some efforts are being made, and I cannot emphasize the importance of reaching a détente and a working situation with China and eventually with India, which is going to become more populous than China at some point here. So both China and India are a big deal in terms of developing guardrails for artificial intelligence and developing an economic model that works for everybody.
Which is really important, right? That's the thing, is finding that balance, which isn't always smooth and easy, right?
It's very difficult, and I don't envy our diplomats and our governmental economists who need to figure this out. It's a moving target, and you can only dance with someone who wants to dance with you. So it's going to be a challenge.
It's really amazing. I mentioned that my family, we have a family member, my nephew, is very involved in the world of AI, and he's something that he's been doing for a long time. And he actually built a platform, one that the WHO actually is involved in using as well, which I think is I mean, we've learned even as a family so much about it just through what we've seen him be able to sort of bring to bear. And he kind of exciting on many different levels, because he won top 50 artificial intelligence CEOs of 2021 from Innovative Technology Innovation or Innovators magazine, which is quite exciting. But he's again working with healthcare and law enforcement. He wants to do things that help with when there are mass shootings, and help with even endangered species, wildlife in Africa, and things of that nature, to use it in such a positive way, which I think is a good thing, right?
It's very admirable, and it's the right impulse to have with respect to a technology that can be incredibly beneficial to humans, but also a bit of a danger.
And to help with animals as well. Yeah, this is a
But
fascinating conversation. It's just what are some things? I mean, you've got this extraordinary background in real estate, then you entered the film world, highly renowned in that area. What are some things that you have learned, that you have observed, and you've experienced and appreciated in the world of AI, just in doing the research yourself as an expert?
well, I would say philosophically, looking at the world and the world influenced by AI, Everything is a disaster in the short term, but it all tends to work out fine in the long term. And I think this may be true of AI. If we don't destroy ourselves, I think that there's going to be a ton of controversy, a lot of misuse of AI in the short term. But I think in the long term, we will grapple with it, master it, and not let it get too far.
You know, this is really an extraordinary topic, and it's so relevant. And it's really a pleasure having you on, Stephen, and opening our eyes, digging deeper, explaining things as well. Because sometimes you hear this word or this terminology, and you try to figure out what does it mean, or you even say, "Oh, that doesn't affect me," or "That just affects that industry or those people over there," or whatever. But this is something that's universal and global and impacts us and has been for years, like you say, on all kinds of different levels, in all kinds of different ways, shapes, and forms, AI, right?
It does. It's already here. Artificial intelligence is part of our lives already, and even when we don't realize it, the question is, as it becomes generative, which means it can create content and it uses large language models to, simulate human behavior, even highly nuanced or technical behavior. The question is, what's that going to mean for us? And what are the opportunities, which are many, and what's the danger?
We'll find out. Stay tuned, to be determined, for sure. Separate from this, you have this extraordinary background in film and television. Are there any projects that you're working on that you're excited about additionally? And congratulations on all the incredible work. I mean, it's extraordinary when you see the body of work you've been involved in, Stephen.
Well, we own a streaming service aimed at the gay audience. And that has been a big part of our business for the last several years. And we use artificial intelligence in that business. An example would be, relanguaging films that we have, which normally, at our budget levels would be prohibitive or too expensive, but using AI, we can convert, an English language film into a Portuguese, Spanish, or French version. This is a real step forward and makes our ability to distribute cost effectively in other countries such a step forward for us. And this sort of thing is going to continue in the entertainment business. It's going to eliminate some jobs. It's going to restructure some jobs, but at the end of the day, you really can't stop it. It's going to be, part of what we have.
Are you excited about it? As much as we've talked about some of the different ways and go down the wrong path, are there things about it that excite you as well? Some of what you just mentioned seem to be, advantageous and help facilitate certain, tasks.
Well, that's a really good question. I don't know if I'm excited. What I am, I think, is practical and realistic. It kind of doesn't matter how excited I am or what I think of it ethically or practically. It's here.
It's here.
And it's going to expand. And if nothing else, the large media companies like Google and Microsoft and Amazon, they need to compete with each other and Meta. And that means that they're going to keep adding and advancing artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And militarily, in order for the U.S. to defend the Republic and be competitive, it's going to have to go to, advanced, in some cases, autonomous weapon systems. We kind of have no choice. So I would say that I am calm about it. I am trying to read and understand more every day. I devote a part of my workday to this topic because it's going to be everything in the future.
Have you seen it used within the real estate industry that you're so immersed in and have been for a long time?
Well, right now the real estate industry is in a bit of a crisis. The nature of work and going into the office has changed dramatically, and it
Yeah.
appears it's going to continue to change. As a result, companies don't need the large floor plates, as much space, and a lot of buildings, particularly B and C buildings, are empty right now or becoming empty. And as leases end, a company that might have leased 10,000 square feet is now, leasing 2,500 because, people come into the office at different times. There's no need. I mean, we've seen it in some of our own businesses. I mean, I have one company that used to have roughly, I think, 15,000 square feet, and now we run it with 2,500 and with far fewer people because of the technology of it. It's advanced so much. So I think real estate, particularly commercial real estate, office buildings, retail, to a certain extent, apartments are going to be challenged, and it's going to be this is not a cyclical thing like some of the other declines during the savings and loan crisis or during the 2008 financial problems. Those were cyclical or based on financial mistakes. This is a change in how people live and how people work, and that's different. And it's going to change the dynamics of real estate investment. I mean, I made a conscientious effort over the last year or two to sell a lot of my commercial real estate because I was concerned about these kinds of things. And so far, that's been the right decision.
That's terrific. It's amazing, yeah, because you got to go according to what's happening, and you got to follow just the trends and what's going on. And you seem to be somebody who's very curious. You like to figure things out. You like to know the why of things, Stephen.
Well, I've always been a reader. I really, I read a lot. Sometimes using machines, a lot of time using books. I collect books from the 1890s to the present day, and I like the feel of a book. When I get on an airplane, rather than using my computer, I like to have a paperback or something like that. It just feels right. But I'm of a certain age that might be, part of my background and part of my work ethic being
I
raised.
love that tactile. Nah, yeah,
I think that's kind of part of being human.
yeah,
To be able to touch things. And the nice thing about a book, other people may have read that book. Someone or maybe more than one have created that work of art, and it's been a product of our culture, of our stories.
exactly. Congratulations to you and Paul on this book. Again, it's a must read. We encourage everybody to go to Amazon and where all the books are sold. Have you been doing, I know, again, Paul, under the weather, but have you been doing any book signings and things of that nature, Stephen?
Really not, because book signings are kind of part of the past. The way one talks about a book and makes people aware of it are these kinds of conversations.
Yeah, we can really break it up and break it down and explore various avenues. And we're glad that you came on the show to do that, Stephen. Congratulations again to you and Paul on the book, and to you for your extraordinary career in real estate and television and film, my areas. And again, you'll have to check out Stephen's bio. It's quite extensive, folks, and some of the incredible product that you've probably devoured and enjoyed. He's had an opportunity to invest in and produce and distribute, which is extraordinary. We hope you'll join us again, and I hope you enjoyed the time with me, Stephen, as much as I absolutely, and our viewers who've been commenting throughout, who have welcomed you to the show from around the world, our international JMS Lovely viewers. Hope you had a good time with us, and you'll come back again.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
The pleasure is ours, Stephen. And again, send our best to Paul, and
I
we'll chat
will.
again soon. Is there another book in the offing?
Well, I'd rather not talk about it until it's further along, if that's okay.
So that's again, as we say in the biz, stay tuned. Film at 11, bulletins at once. Thank you, Stephen. You take care and be well.
I will. You too.
Thank you very much. Coming to us live from Dallas, Texas, a phenomenal conversation on AI, artificial intelligence. And we're so excited to have this opportunity to tell you about the book, but also with Academy Award winning and multi-Emmy nominated celebrated producer and author, investor, Stephen Jarchow. He's extraordinary, and yeah, he's been doing this for a long time. Not only an AI expert, but also an epic career, decades in the real estate industry as an investor and producer and distributor of over 250 movies and television product and so much more. And he's garnered lots of fanfare in the industry. Wrote this book, co-authored with Paul. Paul was going to be on the show with us, Paul Zane Pilzer, but he is under the weather right now. So hopefully at some point we'll have Paul with us. But what a pleasure to have Stephen, and coming at it from a lot of different angles, right? There's so much positive about AI. And again, the uses in a positive way to advance our society and bring our society hopefully together, and to maybe alleviate time and maybe alleviate some of the expense perhaps on certain things in life that are redundant or repetitive or just cost prohibitive. And then, of course, we want to make sure that it is used in a way that is positive, not nefarious, and ways that, of course, benefit society without eliminating the human connection, which is the main thing that people want to know. You know, you don't want everything to be robotic and everything to just be bots. You want, you know, real people to visit and talk to and learn from and have connections with, and emotional connections. That's all still very important. We talk about that a lot here on JMS. So a fascinating conversation on AI, artificial intelligence. And I mentioned my nephew is very involved in that world as well, doing positive things and making his mark as well. And we're proud of him. And so, yeah, a very cool conversation with somebody who's deep into that world. And again, here is that book, The New Roaring Twenties, Prosper and Volatile Times. We appreciate Stephen being with us. You can find it again at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all the places where you find books online. There's the cover. Look for it there. And again, we thank Stephen for joining us from a toasty Dallas, Texas, Academy Award-winning, Emmy-nominated producer and author, an investor, philanthropist, and so much more. Thanks for stopping by the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series. Gang, there are almost 1,000 episodes that you can binge watch with guests coming in from all different backgrounds. Check them all out. It's all archived on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Don't forget, you can also, and we hope you do, give this episode a like. There's a thumbs up icon right on the channel on all the episodes. Give it a like. Leave a comment, drop a comment. If there was something about the conversation that you piqued your interest, that you wanted to share, interact with us. We're very interactive here at JMS. Leave a comment on our YouTube channel on all the episodes. We love that. That also helps talk about algorithms. YouTube is part of an algorithm and has an algorithm too. So when you like and you comment and you subscribe to our channel, that helps this show that you enjoy so much be seen by more people around the world. We have an international audience. But when you do something as simple as click like, leave a comment underneath the episode, even if you did one in the chat room, leave one on the actual page on the channel, and you subscribe to the YouTube channel, which costs nothing, and click the notification bell so you never miss any of our episodes. When you do that, that takes that algorithm that's circulating 24/7 at YouTube and picks the episode, and boom, more people around the world get to see it. So if you want to help us with that, like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us do that. And the subscribe is a button that looks like that. On some pages, it's red. Some pages, it's a black sort of icon with white lettering. Whatever it is, just click it and come join the JMS Lovity family. It's so great to have all of you here. And thanks for everything, gang. We appreciate all of you, our regulars, new folks that are watching. And we also want to say hello to all of you who watch these episodes later on. We have sort of a core audience that watches when they're live. Some are very interactive and they'll comment, and sometimes you'll see some of their names on the screen. But then we also have thousands and thousands of folks who quietly watch, who don't necessarily comment in the chat room, but they are watching and they comment later on our channel, or they send us notes. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Speaking of technology and social media, right? Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jim Masters TV. We also have a Facebook page that really covers a lot of what we're doing here at the Jim Masters Show, and that's Jim Masters TV on Facebook. And the YouTube channel is Jim Masters TV. So it's all sort of condensed and merged together and make it quick and easy and smooth for everybody. So you can interact with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Jim Masters TV as well. And say hi and let us know what you enjoy about our series and maybe who you'd like to see on the show, guests and things of that nature. We appreciate that. Reach out to us and say hello. And of course, folks who would like to sponsor an episode of the Jim Masters Show live, businesses large or small, entrepreneurial or corporate, you can reach out to us as well. We would love to chat with you about opportunities to have us promote your product and maybe have you sponsor what we're doing here and us talk about what you do. There's opportunities there as well. For those who like to go the extra mile, the viewers, when the show is on, the Lovity Hall chat room has super chat, super emoji, super sticker capabilities that we have, where you can support us with the emojis and the chats and all that fun stuff, the super stickers, when the show is on. Anytime the show is on, you can do that live. When the shows are they've aired already and they're no longer live, like this episode, as soon as I'm done talking, it's not going to be live anymore. Then it goes into the JMS archives on our YouTube channel. There is a heart icon called, it's right on all the episodes. Every episode we have done, it's a little heart icon. You click that. It's called Super Thanks. And that helps support what we're doing here at Lovity Hall and JMS. Again, a fascinating topic. Really appreciate our very illustrious guests joining us. You know, everybody has their opinions on things. Everybody's looking at things from a different perspective. But I love bringing in all kinds of different perspectives to our show, celebrity or otherwise, because it gives us a different understanding and maybe a different take and a different look at how the world operates and our role in it. And I think that's kind of cool, right? Everybody welcome, all different backgrounds, all different takes, and all different thought processes and opinions. And with lots of entertainment and our famous Lovity as well. Thanks, gang. It is lunchtime here. I don't know if it's dinner time where you are or breakfast time, because I know a lot of people watch all different times of the day. Some watch live, some watch this later. We say hello to all of you who watch these episodes later on when they're archived. It's nice to see you here as well. Let us know you're watching. Interact with us. Say hello. Drop a comment. Let us know that you're enjoying the show. One more time, if you joined us late, there's the book, The New Roaring '20s, Prosper in Volatile Times, Technology-Driven Wealth. Finding out how you can prosper in these times of AI technology and artificial intelligence technology, which is growing by leaps and bounds. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you and you and you and you, everybody watching all around the world, for stopping by our show. We really appreciate it. It's always great to have you here. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment on the channel, as we always say. And thanks for stopping by. It means the world to us. Wherever you're watching around the world, we appreciate you taking a moment or two to stop by JMS, reminding you that if you ever join us late or you miss an episode, don't worry about it. They're all archived at Jim Masters TV on YouTube. Take care and be well. Thanks for stopping by again. We love having you here. Jim Masters saying, cheers.